Hey, JB from Just TCG here, and the latest Hearthstone Tavern Brawl has been released, and it's another case of randomonium. I hope that's not the name of a previous Tavern Brawl, because otherwise the pun is wasted, and I'm being misleading. This week sees you pick a class, and then your deck is a mix of class spells and copies of Hallucination. Hallucination, remember, is a 1-mana rogue spell that lets you discover a card in your opponent's class. On top of this, you start with 2 3-mana crystals, meaning that on your first turn you have 3 mana. First off, fair warning, turns take a long time, especially the first few turns, because it's very hard to choose which cards to take with Hallucination. It doesn't get any better later on either, as the matchup can swing back and forth, and it leads to some incredibly difficult card choices and surprisingly deep gameplay. After the Unidentifier Brawl, was it really a good idea to run an RNG heavy Tavern Brawl again? I personally have a good win rate with these kinds of brawls, and whilst I don't consider myself amazing at the game, I do consider myself an above average player. So I question how RNG heavy this brawl truly is, and I definitely think there is some skill involved. My win rate is about 80% according to my Hearthstone tracker, but if you take away the people that just insta-concede or don't really try, I reckon that comes down to about 65%. This is also over about 40 to 50 games, which is a small sample size, so take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. And yes, I do know the irony of saying that it's not dependent on RNG, when this game I'm showing now shows me finding 2 Earth Elementals and getting a Call of the Wild in my opening hand, whilst my opponent consistently whiffs. Speaking of opening hands, let's talk about what strategy there is to this brawl. Mulliganing is straightforward. You're keeping all the hallucinations you get, as well as any good spells from your class. Send back all the rubbish ones and pray you don't ever see them again. Don't be surprised if you rope your first couple of turns whilst choosing which cards to take with Hallucination. Here's the secret to this brawl. Don't worry about the mana curve, just pick the most broken cards you find and choose those. This isn't the kind of Tavern Brawl that ends quickly. Both you and your opponent will eventually get to 10 mana, so play the long game. Playing against Druid and find an Ultimate Infestation? Take it. 10 mana? Who cares? You'll discover other cards that will tide you over until then. As for the board itself, you never know what your opponent will have in the future, so play with what you do know, and that's what's actually on the board. Good trading, establishing board control and maintaining it are so crucial to this Tavern Brawl. If at any point you have a turn where you've not swung the board in your favour sufficiently, your choices with Hallucination should be about what will get you back in the game. There are some cool things that can happen in this Tavern Brawl though, which makes it worth checking out. I was playing as Druid against Rogue. Rogue got Twig of the World Tree on turn 5. Playing Twig and then hero powering led to the death rattle triggering. This meant that my opponent had 10 mana crystals on turn 5 as a Druid. If there's one class that can abuse having 10 mana crystals that early, it's Druid. Take that, standard. By the way, I still won that game, but I think that was more down to my opponent's bad choices after that than anything else. Another game saw me play against Warrior and found Explore and Goro in my Hallucination, so I ended up playing cards from my class anyway. That game was a lot of fun for me, but not so much for my opponent, who had to sit there for 35 minutes whilst I stopped losing. It completely swung the tide of battle. At one point I was on 4 health, but then I found Ultimate Infestation, then Moonglade Portal, then Moonglade Portal again, then tons of big taunt dudes that helped me stabilise. Overall, I enjoyed this Tavern Brawl. It's a nice playing field leveller for free to play accounts like this one. There is some skill to the Tavern Brawl, and there are certainly games that can go on for a long time. Some do end quickly, but I think that's because people give up too easily. I definitely considered conceding in the Explore and Goro match, but I stuck it out and won. As I said earlier, matches can swing violently, so respect that when you play. What are your thoughts on the new Tavern Brawl? What crazy things have you seen happen? Have you enjoyed it? Or are you just waiting for a Tavern Brawl that doesn't rely so much on RNG? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, links in the description below. In the meantime though, I've been JB for Just TCG, this has been the Hallucination Tavern Brawl in Hearthstone, and I'll see you in the next one.